Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be covering an interview that was done by Dualshockers.com with Naoki Yoshida. Now in this interview they cover housing and what's going to be happening coming 4.2 and onward, Squadrons and if Yoshida and team have much plans for that, story, tidbits here and there, and as they call it, the road ahead. Now, for this interview, of course, it was done by Dualshockers, and we're just covering it here on the channel. So, go to the description of the video, go to the source material, give them hits, give them shares. Just basically make sure that you're supporting the original creators of this content that we're covering in the YouTube video. So with that out of the way, they start with just a quick background for their readers about anyone who may not have been following Stormblood and its recent success, including Final Fantasy XIV's surprising success after 4 years of running as a subscription MMO. Now, the very first question that they actually ask, though, is about housing. We all know that the Shirogane situation didn't turn out great. New houses gone very quickly on most servers, and a lot of players very disgruntled about the lack of housing available to the mass majority. So, what are they doing? What is the team doing? We already have answers to this. We know they're looking to add more wards. We know they're looking to sort of make the system for getting a house a little more fair between players, so it's not just first come, first serve. But let's actually read what Yoshida had to say. He said the Shirogane house itself was very stable. Wasn't there some sort of bug that was preventing people from buying houses? I guess that might have not been exclusive to Shirogane. Like, Shirogane area might not have been unstable, but there were still, I still definitely remember a bug for people who did actually participate in trying to get housing that wasn't great. So they're going to be reviewing the percentage of active players who own housing, as well as the number of active free companies that do not own housing. So to repeat that, review the percentage of active players who own housing and the number of free companies that do not own it. And from there, work to add appropriate amounts of additional wards to all 4 housing areas in 4.2. That means that it's not just going to be Shirogane seeing new wards in 4.2. All 4 of the housing areas will be seeing more houses in 4.2. Now, that's interesting that they're looking at players who own houses and free companies that don't. I wonder if that means they're prioritizing free companies in some way with this information. It just seems like it's a really weird to look at one that owns and one that doesn't. Not just look at the number of players, the number of active players and the number of active free companies, both that do not own housing. Now, as for the next thing, this is where they talk about, you know, they have a way for purchasing fairly. Most people think it's going to be a lottery system where it selects the person who gets to buy the house based on, I guess, pure chance as opposed to first come, first serve. There's, of course, pros and cons to that. We've been over that in a number of videos, so we don't need to talk about it again here. And he just wants to reiterate that an equal number of plots will be added to all 4 housing areas. So it's not going to be like 5 for Shirogane, 3 for the Mist, etc., etc. If one of them gets 5, all of them are going to get 5 wards. So, I mean, ultimately adding more wards is nice. I don't think it ultimately fixes the housing situation that we were talking about with 4.1, but anything, honestly, anything at this point while they work on more long-term stuff, which is what the next question is about. Dualshockers asked if there was any way for them to add housing dynamically. Like, oh, all the houses are full, new ward pops up. I personally think that from a design standpoint it's possible, but we all know stability. Stability is the #1 thing that Yoshida and team care about. And here you go. However, we are not able to create a system which land is generated automatically whenever there is a deficiency, or create a system which the number of plots changes depending on a world's population. I believe they say right here the reason is that it could compromise stability. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what we always know they're going to answer. Stability, 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 even though, yeah, that's a discussion for another time, I suppose. They also mention apartments here. Process involves plots of land are executed within the zone in which they reside, while the interior of a house on a plot of land has its home within a separate housing server. So this is basically the reason why we can't have something like a terrace when it comes to an apartment, because it's processed in 2 completely different ways. I think there are other workarounds to what most people want are basically the functions of the outdoors or the ability to use outdoor furniture within an apartment. While they may not be able to do a terrace, I think they could rework the space in which the housing server exists to allow blocks, I suppose, to count as outdoors if there can't be a terrace period. I think ultimately these are technical things that they're saying aren't possible now. They're totally possible to overcome. I don't think any of us would believe that this can't be done. It's just the way that it's currently designed. It's not as simple as kind of slapping it on, is the way that I read through this. So first, they're working to make sure that they meet player demand for housing, and they'll have more updates for that as we get closer to 4.2. Next live letter is mid-December, so maybe we'll see something along those lines there. After that, they're going to be looking to update the apartment system. I remember them saying that having multiple sizes of apartments was something they were considering. So we may see that going on into 4.x after 4.2 is small, medium, large style apartments. I need to find the interview where they mention that elsewhere. Also, is Ishgard housing area going to be happening anytime soon? I mean, they can't comment on it. They got to focus on the stuff that is being talked about now. Adding another housing area where people are going to say there was not enough housing, probably less of a priority than making sure there's enough housing in the first place. But, who knows? I mean, it would take so much dev time. It'd be much easier to take blocks of information that are already there and multiply them based on server availability. All right, Los Angeles is a cool place. And then it would be to design an entirely new housing area. As for, now this next one hits close to home. How's population bounce between servers looking like? Did the incentives provided with the release of Stormblood manage to alleviate the issues in large servers like Balmung or Gilgamesh? Or is there more work to be done? So they said that it seems to be working out better. Obviously, it was an inconvenience to some players, Gilgamesh and Balmung, and other servers as well. But that, thanks to our cooperation, it's definitely looking like it's a lot better. They're not just analyzing concurrent numbers of users, but also the number of players per level in addition to daily average users. So they're basically going to constantly look at that when determining what's considered congested and what's not considered congested. They finally let Gilgamesh go, and it's starting to, after a week or so, we're starting to pick up a little bit more livelihood, but it's going to be a while before Gilgamesh is, at least feels more alive. It's not necessarily back to the way it was. I don't think it'll ever get back to that way, which is good in my opinion for the sake of that question where it's talking about stability of the populations of different servers. I think where Gilgamesh will end up will be in a pretty nice place, but not too over the top like it was before. Next is about command missions for Squadrons. Any plans to expand them? I mean, we already know we're getting more dungeons, but Naoki Yoshida says, first of all, they asked about Fantasia postage for Squadrons. They said, no, probably not, because each of their initial outfits speaks to their personality a little bit. We can already glamour them, so I guess imagine Fantasia just wouldn't really be something they're interested in. It's like literally changing the entirety of the squadron member. Personally, I'm not attached enough to my squadron members to care. I'm just saying that's just me. They're planning on expanding squadron content itself in future updates. Plan to add features like taking on special missions and expanding which dungeons you can challenge. So special missions apparently does not just mean the other dungeons. What could a special mission be for Squadrons? Like, right now, pretty much, if anyone's doing it at all, people do dungeons for Squadrons to level their low-level jobs. Even after the nerfs to, or I guess the fixes to the engage bug, it's still relatively fast, like a 12-minute clear of Stone Vigil for pretty decent experience points. So, I wonder if what a special mission would possibly be. Something that requires you to, like, really min-max, or I guess actively control the party members, or I guess the squadron overall. But I mean, ultimately they're AI and they can't think much for themselves, so I don't know what kind of special missions they could really be talking about. Probably not anything difficult. They're probably just, as they're saying, special. So who knows what that actually ends up meaning. Spending in consideration to integrate squadrons and retainers. So I actually got this question on a live stream the other day, and I was like, I mean, it's possible, but I don't think they'll do it. But they said they don't have any plans at the moment, but they might be able to make it so retainer details can be copied over to squadron members. This would require a significant amount of time, and I will tell the person handling it about the idea. So basically, that's not something that could happen immediately, so don't expect it anytime soon. But it's something that may be possible. He'll let the person in charge know. He is the person in charge, but he'll let the person in charge of that know. So the next thing is regarding main story. I guess we can't really talk about this much. Even Yoshida just says this is all like spoiler territory, so I don't really want to talk about it. Even the next question is kind of spoilery, to be honest. It's something from very early on in the Stormblood story, but I'm gonna skip over it. It's basically just, it asks why one character was treated a certain way, and then Yoshida just says, we need to make sure that there's certain characters that we want in the spotlight, and sometimes we have to deliberately make something happen to one character so that another character can shine. So I won't talk about it in specifics. We're just going to scroll past it real quick. There we go. Okay. Next is Stormblood brought some very relevant changes to PvP. Now if we get a true realm versus realm like in Dark Age of Camelot. Oh man. What do the metrics for Frontline and Feast look like in the post-expansion for 14? Okay. Number of players participating in PvP has notably increased. Yeah, I mean, that's no surprise considering you put experience points in there. Although, I'm sure that the data doesn't show the more I guess, nitty gritty when it comes to what actually happens in those PvP matches. So they got 3 major updates planned. The new type of PvP mode, Rival Wings, was the first one. That's a 4.15. We have that already. Then they're planning to do an update to the PvP system. Plans to make changes to some rules in line with player feedback we received. So as someone who hasn't provided much player feedback, I don't know if that's specifically. They're talking about the PvP system overall. I have to imagine that means, not mean, that I guess they're going to be looking at the PvP profile itself and the way that skills are selected or balanced, because the PvP system as its entirety doesn't really exist much anymore. Like, PvP profile, it's just something that, I guess outside of selecting your traits and your skills, like, there's not really a whole lot to it anymore. So, not sure exactly what they have planned for that one, but they basically want to ramp up the competitive nature of it so that they can do official tournaments for the Feast. There are going to be new updates to Frontlines, which is not the same thing as Rival Wings. Rival Wings is considered separate from Frontlines, so remember that doesn't necessarily apply to Rival Wings. And on top of that, they're going to be doing things for quicker matching. In order to make for quicker matching that help increase participation, looking to refine the time for when specific content is available. So I remember them mentioning this, oh man, a while ago, where they were considering making it so you could only do like climbing of the ladder in like the Feast within certain time frames during certain days. So basically, if you wanted to, compete to raise your ranking, you had to be logging in at a certain time. That has its conveniences and inconveniences. It definitely concentrates, hey, people will be doing this activity at this time, and if you want to participate, then, that's it. But if you're someone who can't log in at those times, then it basically removes the content from your potential of what you could be doing. I don't know. They say it's the better balance, both PvE and PvP play. I don't know that it'll necessarily achieve that. I expect that if they do go through with that, it'll have some positives, but I don't know if the positives will outweigh the negatives there. And the third major update is final preparations for official tournaments as we push out these changes. Holding official events drive enthusiasm and motivation for PvP. That's something I definitely agree with, and can also be exciting for spectators. So it sounds like they want people to maybe feel like, maybe if you're not getting enough in-game rewards, the idea of working towards being competitive enough to be in one of the tournaments might be motivation enough to get people in. But I guess then the question is, are there enough people that will feel motivated enough to do that without an in-game motivation? There will definitely be some. I'm curious to see how that actually ends up panning out with our specific community. But we'll be getting those updates throughout the 4.x series in, as they say, separate phases. They also talk about that they're working on the next expansion. They already have a text-based storyboard for the next expansion's opening trailer, but obviously we're not going to hear about that for a really long time. Then they talk about working on Return to Ivalice. Specifically, what's mentioned here is found it a bit more challenging than the previous Alliance raids that were instead fairly easy. Is this a trend that will continue? So Yoshida says he'd like to provide content isn't necessarily more difficult, but it's exciting. They had a lot of fun working on Ivalice, and they like that a lot of people have enjoyed Ivalice, especially with some of the new mechanics they came up with for it. But that being said, they don't necessarily want to make things more difficult. They just want it to be exciting, fun, and unique. They want to contain the element of thrill and excitement into whatever content they're making. And then finally, they asked, are we going to see Vieira as a race? And Yoshida says, we're always talking about new races and jobs, but it's top secret, so if I tell you, my life is in danger. Unfortunately, that's where it actually ends. But thank you, Giuseppe Nelva, the executive news editor, for putting together this post and interview. Again, go to the description of this video, go to the source, and make sure to share that with your friends and share that with anyone you know on social media. Make sure that you support the websites that actually get to do the interviews and not just the video that you're watching the interview being covered and thoughts in. Overall, some good stuff here. We need more specifics, and with the next live letter in the middle of December, hopefully we get the right information. Hoping that we get some stuff specifically regarding housing. I'm not interested in it, but I know so many people that were so disappointed that, it may not affect my gameplay, but it ultimately is something that's super important to the community, and therefore that's something I want to see improve. I always like seeing them improve the thing that the community is definitely the loudest about. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned. We have some other videos coming up this week before I head off to Canada to be at KupoCon. If you'll be in Toronto this coming weekend of December, what is it, 3rd? December 2nd, 3rd? Yeah, I think KupoCon is on the 3rd in particular. I'll be there. It's just it's a fan-run Final Fantasy convention, small, one day after a Distant Worlds concert, and I'll be there. So, if you see me there, high five. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching, and until then, take care.